It wasn't a sudden jolt, more like a quiet hum that stopped. My badge hesitated on the sensor that Monday morning. Not a broken buzz, not a denied red light. Just a moment of digital indecision, as if the building itself was whispering, "Daisy, sweetie, maybe today isn't the day." My name's Daisy, 58 years old. For the last 2 decades, I've been the unsung architect of Logiflow solutions, building the complex data pipelines while fresh-faced college grads named Jason got corner offices for designing our new mobile app's splash screen. I was there when Leo, the CEO, used to run the company from a borrowed storage unit, fueled by instant coffee and a dream. Back then, we built things that worked, systems that moved packages across the country on time. Now, it was all about market-disrupting synergies and a beanbag lounge where the server racks used to be. Leo was still here, but the wide-eyed kid I used to help debug SQL queries with was now a polished executive who called me Dorothy half the time and forgot my name the other half. He walked around like he invented the concept of global commerce, wearing those bespoke leather sneakers that screamed, "I have a personal brand." The same guy who once cried after spilling a Monster Energy on his keyboard and wiping out a quarter's worth of inventory data. And me? I was the infrastructure, the ghost in the machine. No one had invited me to a strategy meeting in months, but you better believe the back-end database purred like a kitten because of the scripts I wrote. They didn't notice me. They damn sure noticed when the client portal hiccuped. Guess who still fixed it? Spoiler, not Jason. The decline was gradual. First, my office moved to a corner near the supply closet. Then they forgot to renew my annual software license. A classic move. HR started sending me cheerful emails about legacy retirement planning. I'm not a fool. I've seen ant colonies with more finesse than this company's offboarding ritual. One afternoon, I walked into the break room and saw the new junior analyst, Chloe, presenting my data validation script to the leadership team, as if she'd coded it during a weekend hackathon. Leo clapped like a circus seal. I just stood there, holding a lukewarm herbal tea, watching the praise roll in. No eye contact, no acknowledgement, just that tight corporate smile they reserve for people who have outlived their usefulness but haven't dropped dead yet. But I stayed quiet. I always do. When you've been the backbone of an operation for 2 decades, you learn the value of silence. You learn how to listen, how to wait, how to bury your name in systems so old the new hires think they're folklore. That's the thing about invisible people. We see everything. They called me into the conference room as if it were a damn birthday surprise. HR was already there, a nervous grin on her face. Leo sat at the head of the table, legs crossed, sipping green juice like he'd just solved world hunger. The man looked absolutely thrilled, like firing me was going to be the highlight of his quarter. I stood just inside the door, my coffee in one hand, car keys in the other, like some part of me already knew this was a one-way conversation. "Daisy," Leo began, all fake sympathy and Botoxed concern. "We've reevaluated some roles during this new phase of growth." I just raised one eyebrow. Years ago, I might have fought. Today, I just wanted to see how low he'd sink. "The truth is," he said, with that little smirk he used to get after he'd crash a server, "you've outlived your usefulness." No thank you, no handshake, not even a company pen with the logo. Just those 5 words, delivered with the charm of a DMV clerk. Then came the final insult, the line that'll probably be carved on his tombstone someday. He leaned back and laughed. "Try getting another job now." That's when it happened. Something inside me, something coiled for years like a rattlesnake under a porch step, woke up. It didn't scream, didn't rage. It just opened its eyes and took a slow, calculating breath. I said nothing, just nodded once, as if agreeing to bad weather. He didn't notice. He went back to scrolling his phone, probably checking his stock portfolio. HR handed me a folder that smelled like desperation and lavender. Severance papers. I got a pat on the back and a 5-minute exit checklist. As I walked out, I caught a glimpse of his screen. He was looking at vacation rentals in Bali. The man had no idea he just yanked the pin from his own grenade. Because here's what Leo forgot. What all these move fast and break things types forget. While they were chasing buzzwords and hiring growth hackers, I was busy building the damn skeleton. Don't rip out your spine and expect to keep walking. He assumed everything was documented, labeled, and stored neatly in a cloud storage folder like some digital IKEA manual. What he never realized is, I don't write manuals for people who treat me like furniture. He thought I'd go quietly. He thought wrong. I didn't cry on the drive home. I didn't scream. I just drove slow, steady through the rain-slicked streets, like I was returning from a routine doctor's appointment, numb, tongue pressed against a wound I couldn't quite feel yet. But the second I stepped into my house, past the faint smell of old coffee and lemon cleaner, I kicked off my shoes, fed the cat, and walked straight to the room no one had been in since before Leo had armpit hair. My office. My real office. Not some open-plan hellscape with kombucha on tap. No, this was wood-paneled, fan-humming, a chair permanently molded to my spine kind of office. And in the far corner, under a dust cover, with an old post-it that said, "Don't update this," ever scrawled on it, was my terminal. Old Faithful. A workstation I built with my own hands when the company was still running invoices on spreadsheets. I fired it up. No fanfare, just a low hum, a soft green glow, and a login prompt that greeted me like an old friend. I typed like my fingers already knew where this was going. SSH to the old data warehouse. Access the legacy scripts folder. Deeper, deeper. And then I found it, a credential still active, buried so far down in the infrastructure they'd need a digital backhoe to even sniff it out. One key, one handshake, tied to a forgotten root process that authenticates every instance of their flagship product. The skeleton key to the entire damn kingdom. Still under my name, still live. Like the clueless idiots they are, no one had rotated it. No intern knew it existed. Not a single line in the documentation, because I never documented this. I stared at it, not with fury, not with grief, just stillness, like the eye of a storm. And then I did it. I didn't delete. I didn't sabotage. I'm not petty. I'm surgical. I disabled it. Not revoked, not traced. Just quietly flicked it off, like turning off a light in a house you no longer live in. No fire, no footprints, just silence. And that silence, that's the part they never see coming. It's not the hacker in a hoodie or the bombastic exit speech with legal threats. Nah, real vengeance is a system that blinks green until suddenly one day it doesn't. And when that day comes, Leo will be on some investor call spewing jargon about user growth, when his golden goose lays a system-wide error message. And when he asks his bright-eyed, oat milk-sipping engineers what went wrong, they'll say, "We don't know. It's like something just vanished." Yeah, Leo, it did. Tuesday morning, 8:14 a.m. sharp. The deployment queue hiccups. Not a full crash, just enough latency to make a senior developer mutter, "That's weird," into their granola. A new data commit goes live, but the pipeline lags like it's dragging a dead limb. QA blames DevOps. DevOps shrugs and says, "Maybe the load balancer is acting up again." A classic standoff. Logs start going missing. Not wiped, just misaligned. Timestamps don't match. Error messages refer to systems no one's touched in years. A new hire named Trevor says, "Is it a versioning bug?" No one answers. They're too busy combing through cloud pages written by interns who thought a root directory was a kind of vegetable stir-fry. Meanwhile, Leo is in his glass office, surrounded by fake plants and investor faces on a Zoom call. He's in the middle of a ramble about cloud confidence and AI verticals, while his hands do jazz fingers above the keyboard. He hasn't noticed the outage or the Slack panic. The part where his empire, valued at over $500 million, is already bleeding at the seams. And me? I'm 3 miles away, feet up on a park bench, watching pigeons like it's a damn hobby. I took the long way home from the grocery store. I grabbed a chai latte. I checked the company Slack from a burner account I made years ago after Leo forgot to remove my admin privileges from the dev sandbox. It's beautiful. Channels lighting up with anyone else seeing errors in the CI/CD logs? Why is data staging frozen again? Anyone know who owned the legacy handshake process? Why is production throwing 403s on success responses? God, I could bottle this chaos and wear it like perfume. Back at HQ, someone suggests a rollback. Another suggests rebooting the staging servers. One brave soul floats the phrase, credential rot. Leo's assistant tells him mid-Zoom call. He waves her off like she's asking about printer toner. I take another sip of chai. They still think it's a fluke, a hiccup, temporary turbulence in the ever-smooth skies of their overfunded nonsense. But you can feel the shift starting, like a ripple under concrete. You know the earthquake is coming. You just don't know which second it hits. And that's the part I love most. That edge-of-your-seat uncertainty. They don't know what's happening yet, but I do. I didn't set the fire. I just quietly turned off the sprinklers. Tomorrow, they'll bring in the hose. But today, they stare at the smoke and wonder where the hell it's coming from. By Wednesday morning, the office Slack looks like a digital crime scene. Threads unravel like cheap yarn. Everyone's tagging everyone. Panic disguised as productivity. 9:12 a.m. Can someone confirm if it's a QA issue? 9:15 a.m. QA replies, "Worked fine in staging. This smells like a deployment bug." 9:17 a.m. DevOps chimes in. "We followed protocol. Maybe QA didn't validate a data point." 9:18 a.m. Back to QA. "Are you serious right now?" Meanwhile, the CTO, a man who once claimed he doesn't do details, strolls in late with his cold brew and finds the entire stack gasping for air. He tries to play it cool, reboots half the cloud instances like flipping breakers in a haunted house, then hits the wall when nothing responds. Dashboard links error out. Logs show incomplete authentication. 403s on a good day, silent timeouts on a bad one. Still, Leo marches into the 11 a.m. client demo with the swagger of a man who just bought Bitcoin at the top. Their biggest government client is on the call, they share their integration screen, and the whole thing crumples like a gas station sandwich. Error. Retry timeout. The official on the other end says, "We should be worried." Leo, in all his caffeinated delusion, laughs. It's just a glitch. That's his new mantra now. Everything's a glitch. Production failures? Glitch. Untraceable pipeline delays? Glitch. API calls ghosting like Tinder matches? Glitch. At 11:06, I refresh my LinkedIn. New banner. Freshened up the summary. Changed my headline to Infrastructure Whisperer. Problems solved before you know you have them. By 11:13, I get a message from a recruiter named Grace. "Hi, Daisy. Just came across your profile. Your background is exactly what one of my clients is looking for. Are you open to a consulting chat?" Oh, Grace, you have no idea how open I am. See, what none of them at my old job realize yet is that their precious product roadmap, the next big launch they've been hyping to investors for months, is chained to the very credential I disabled. Not the dev version, not the sandbox. Production. Real users, real data. A contract worth $150 million. They architected their future around a legacy system built by a redundant old woman with a cluttered desk and a library of bash scripts. And I am that legacy. But I'm not bitter, not loud, not even smug. I'm surgical. I sit with perfect posture, click accept on Grace's calendar invite, and make a fresh pot of coffee. The boys in the war room yell about Jenkins' logs and blame the janitor for packet loss. I'll be over here waiting for the next shoe to drop. Thursday starts with a war room meeting and ends with a whiteboard covered in scribbles that look like cave drawings drawn by anxious squirrels. The internal audit team's been called in. 3 guys in polo shirts with clipboards and caffeine tremors. They dig through logs like raccoons in a dumpster, convinced they'll find some malicious IP or Russian botnet chewing on the back end. But there's nothing. No breach, no brute force attempts, no unusual admin activity. The logs cut off clean, like someone turned off the lights before the crime was committed. The CTO starts suggesting maybe the system's overheating digitally, whatever the hell that means. HR nods like that makes sense. Leo chews gum like it's helping. They start eyeing the contractors. Someone asks if the new analyst from India might have missed a regression. Someone else points to a test environment that hasn't been updated since spring and mutters, "Maybe it's a versioning conflict." Classic company panic. When in doubt, blame the quiet guy with the accent or the intern who uses Vim. But then, at 2:44 p.m., it happens. A senior engineer, one of the few old enough to remember when cloud still meant Dropbox, leans back and squints at his notes. He taps his pen and says, "Didn't Daisy build some kind of legacy handshake protocol into the data flow? Like back in the early days before we moved everything to OAuth?" The room stills. You could hear Leo's overpriced watch ticking. Leo blinks. "Legacy what?" The engineer shrugs. "It was never documented. Just something she kept running. Said it was foundational for our rollout process. It only ever worked because her credential was tied to it." Leo frowns. "I thought we deprecated that years ago." Silence. The CTO, suddenly pale, whispers, "We meant to." I nearly spit my tea out laughing because while they're over there unraveling their own digital intestines, trying to find where they buried the landmine, I'm sitting on my porch with a warm mug, watching squirrels argue over a Dorito in my bird feeder. I check the time. The clock's still ticking because here's what they don't know. The system didn't fail. It obeyed. Obeyed a switch, a heartbeat, a gatekeeper credential that quietly said, "No more." They're not racing toward a fix. They're racing toward a cliff they don't know exists. Every minute that passes, another domino falls. Small outages, degraded APIs, clients filing quiet support tickets marked urgent. And me? I've got the countdown memorized. I don't need a stopwatch. I built the damn clock. Friday morning, Leo's swagger is officially on back order. His button-up is wrinkled, his hair gel's gone rogue, and his voice, normally dripping with Silicon Valley smug, is cracking like drywall in a cheap Airbnb. He storms out of the glass fishbowl he calls an office, slams his laptop shut like it owes him money, and yells toward the IT pit. "Who the hell is Daisy M? And why is her credential throwing 403s? His executive assistant flinches so hard she drops her matcha latte. Poor Leo. He always thought credentials were like houseplants. If you ignored them long enough, they'd just quietly die. But this one had claws. The CTO, now sweating through his overpriced flannel like a busted fire hydrant, pulls up the archived credentials list, eyes darting across a spreadsheet no one's touched in years. Then he sees it. Daisy M. The field reads, no surname, no tags. Just an email domain that hasn't been active since before Leo grew facial hair. But the signature ID, mine, my old company login from 2012, wrapped around the authentication spine like ivy on a rusted fence. He tries to override it, denied. He tries to reset it, blocked. He tries to trace it, redirected to a dead endpoint that spits back a glorious, glimmering 403 forbidden. Now the CTO's face is sheet white. Had I missed a meeting? Panic. SEC investigation. Firing. Leo, desperate, sends an all-caps email with the subject line, "Urgent, can we get Daisy back?" It hits my inbox mid-meeting. I'm sitting across from the CTO of a rival firm, sipping espresso in a leather chair that doesn't smell like fear. They're talking product strategy, scalability, respect. I smile, slide my phone under the table, open the email, and reply. Already consulting elsewhere. Good luck. Click send. No emoji, no signature. Just enough silence to echo in their war room like a funeral bell. Leo doesn't scream again. He just wilts, peels off his jacket, and stares at his screen like maybe, just maybe, he's dreaming. Like maybe he didn't just kick out the one person who knew where the foundation ended and the quicksand began. And that's the part that tastes best. The quiet of being remembered too late. The elegance of poetic timing. The predator finally realizes the grass was never tall enough to hide in. The moment the king realizes he exiled the architect and kept the interns. I watch the read receipt blink green. Then I turn back to the meeting and say, "Now where were we?" By Friday at 4:32 p.m., the last domino tips. The main product dashboard, the one Leo loves to parade around like a prize hog at a county fair, won't load. Not on desktop, not on mobile, not on the custom-built tablet he gave to investors. Every API call returns empty air. Internal tools blink red, and somewhere deep in the belly of their server stack, the ghost of my credentials spits out its final glorious rejection slip. Access denied. The backend's gone blind. Authentication fails across the board. Clients try logging in, nothing. Internal teams can't push patches, can't even validate user IDs. It's like someone surgically extracted the company's nervous system and left behind a twitching corpse of front-end fluff. And then the cancellations start. Not the little ones. No. The big clients, the government ones, the hospitals, the logistics firm with the 7-year contract Leo's been using as collateral for his next funding round. Support tickets come in labeled escalated, critical, and immediate legal review. One client emails a threat of breach of service litigation before lunch. By 5:11, someone on the board uses a phrase that hasn't been uttered since the company's first pitch deck. System dependency negligence. Translation: you built a multi-million-dollar empire on a keystroke held by one person, and now you can't even find her name in the HR system. Leo's face, I'm told, looks like someone microwaved a wax figure of himself. He stops yelling, stops pacing, just sits there while the board gives him 2 options. Fix it or step down. So he does what weak men always do when the wolves close in. He fumbles for the past he discarded like trash. He calls me. The screen lights up with his name. Leo, CEO. Not even my full name, just some lazy leftover contact from when we used to troubleshoot staging together in the break room over stale bagels. I stare at the screen, let it ring and ring. He doesn't leave a voicemail. Of course, he doesn't. People like Leo don't apologize. They just assume the person they burned will still show up with a fire extinguisher when the house is finally engulfed. But I don't, because I'm not back. I'm above. There's a difference. He made me invisible. He made me expendable. And now I'm untouchable. The clock's almost at 0. The fuse he lit with his ego is crawling toward the payload. And I'm not sweating, not trembling. I'm not even smiling anymore. I'm already building something new, somewhere they'll never touch. And Leo? Leo's stuck at the center of a blackout with a flashlight made of lies and a map written in disappearing ink. At exactly 12 o'clock p.m. Friday, right as the second hand kisses the top of the dial, the system gives out its final breath. No warning, no flicker, just full cardiac arrest. Leo's in a boardroom across town, sweating through his quarter zip, mid-demo, with a high-ranking federal agency. The kind of client that doesn't like excuses and definitely doesn't do second chances. He's clicking through slides, beaming, his ego puffed up like a toad in mating season when he tries to show off the real-time product dashboard and nothing loads. He refreshes, spins the laptop around to his tech lead. Silence. The whole stack's down, everything dead. The government official tilts their head. Is this part of the presentation? Leo laughs nervously. Glitch? Just a glitch? But his voice cracks, his hand trembles, and then he screams. It's her credential. Get her on the phone. Back at my new office, glass walls, proper coffee, real ventilation. I'm mid-sentence, presenting a migration strategy to a firm that actually understands the word infrastructure. I'm calm, collected, a pointer in hand. The room nods along and jots notes like I'm revealing ancient scripture. My phone buzzes, screen lights up. Leo CEO. I don't hesitate. Decline. I don't even blink. I just turn the phone face down and continue my sentence. And with a properly segmented credential layer, we avoid single-point dependency risks, like the kind that can take down an entire product if mismanaged. Someone in the room chuckles. They don't know the story. They don't need to, because I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to build. I pack up my notes after the meeting, step out onto the sunlit balcony of a place that respects me, and breathe in a kind of peace that doesn't beg for acknowledgement. My phone buzzes again. A text this time, from the new CEO. Welcome aboard. Your office is ready. I stare at the message for a moment, then type back. This time, I'll write the exit plan myself. And I mean it. No fire, no drama, just a controlled detonation. They watched the fuse burn. I watched the clock. And when it hit 0, I didn't turn around. I walked forward. The lesson. This story teaches us a valuable lesson about the importance of respecting the people who build and maintain the foundation of any organization. It highlights the dangers of taking for granted the invisible employees whose work is often unseen but is absolutely critical to success. A strong foundation, whether in a company's infrastructure or its team, is essential for sustainable growth. The positive message: everyone's contribution has value, and true professionals know their worth. Rather than dwelling on past injustices, the best revenge is to move forward and build something new and better, in an environment where your skills and experience are genuinely appreciated. A new beginning is always possible, and sometimes being let go from a place that no longer serves you is the very push you need to find a place that truly does.